Hi, my name is Joe Murphy. I'm the co-host of the Chef's Table series, and we want to welcome you tonight to a wonderful meal. It's short ribs of beef, and I'm very pleased to introduce Chef Steve Adan, Executive Chef of Sanctuary Restaurant in Jamaica Plain. So it's great having you here today, Chef.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this meal. I love short ribs myself. And, you know, in the old days, I would eat beef 3 or 4 times a week. And I don't do that anymore like a lot of people, but this is a great dish to have, a beef dish. And the technique for preparing this is braising?
Yes, it's braising today.
Right.
So what we're going to do, we're going to start with a choice. You can buy this beef anywhere in any supermarket. Braising basically means to sear on all sides of the meat to keep all the juices inside of the meat. The salt, the pepper is actually putting it all together. And then after that, we're going to add a few other steps.
Excellent. You know, one of the things we do talk about is mise en place, which means everything in its place. And I know in Chef's kitchen, when his line cooks are getting ready for the evening, they're getting everything in its place so that they're not forgetting an ingredient or running to the other end of the kitchen asking, where is the kosher salt? And it's right there for them to get moving, correct?
Yes, very much.
Okay, and looking at your mise en place, it's not only a mise en place, which are all the ingredients, but there are the makings of a mirepoix, which is used to make a nice, deep, rich stock with. So that you could use with chicken, or turkey, beef, duck, seafood stocks. So, Chef, as I pick these up, why don't you talk about this?
So this is just celery, as you can see there.
Yeah, and the other part of the mirepoix?
Is carrot.
And then we have the onion.
The onion,
correct? Yeah. So those are the 3 ingredients, the basic ingredients. Now, I noticed for this dish, you also have kosher salt, which we've talked about many times. Kosher salt or sea salt is preferred.
Yes, in kitchens.
In professional kitchens. And the main reason is the crystals are much larger than your table salt. And it's much easier for portion control. And as I've said on every show, in volume, if you had a tablespoon of kosher salt or sea salt versus a tablespoon of table salt, the sodium content is going to be less in the sea salt and kosher salt because they're larger crystals, so they fill up that tablespoon much quicker than the table salt. So, and I want to share something about Chef. He collects salts, okay? And you told me, how many do you have, different salts?
Currently, right now, I have 15 different flavors.
Okay, why don't you talk about the salt from Hawaii?
That salt is a ash salt. It's actually taken from the volcanoes. People actually go up there and they scoop the salt right maybe 50 feet away from the volcanoes.
Wow.
So it's considered an ash salt. It's very hard to find. It ingests a lot of flavor into any kind of meats, morely red meats than any fish or anything like that. But the ash salt is actually very expensive. It's hard to find. Hawaii is one of those places that you can actually obtain it from there and have them actually shipped to you.
Now, let's just maybe mention 1 or 2 other salts that you have.
So the latest one that I got, which is a lime chili salt, that's good on poultry, duck, some snapper, mahi-mahi, that's good for that. Another one is a caramelized onion sea salt. And what they do is they basically roast the onions and then they caramelize it and then they add this, it's almost like a crystal salt to it, and they let it sit for about 60 days just to kind of pull in all the flavor, and then they basically it's big flakes and then they kind of chop them down they get really fine, almost like the sea salt.
these are great topics. So we may be talking to Chef a little bit down the road and do a segment on the different salts.
Yeah, that'd be
and
great.
That ash salt that's very rare and very expensive, maybe you could put a little bag in the co-host pocket.
Of course.
Whatever, you know?
Yes.
But in any event, why don't we get going? And you have a short rib?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a short rib that we have at the restaurant. It's needled, and we like to keep the fat on it just to give more flavor.
Right.
So what we're going to start off with is we're going to season it, both sides. We're going to cut it, and then we're going to start up to searing it off.
Okay, so you're seasoning this with salt and pepper?
Yep, so we got the kosher salt, so we're going to season it pretty good on both sides.
Okay.
And then chop it up and then add it to...
Okay, well, why don't we get this going? We're using induction burners. American chefs love the gas, but induction has some great options. If you take your pan off, within 20 seconds you can put your hand where that burner was, and it'll be cool enough so that you don't burn yourself. There's no flame, so that has an aspect for safety if you're nervous about gas, and it's very efficient compared to gas. The only thing I don't like about it is cleaning the ceramic tops, but beyond that, it's a great method. The only other thing I would tell you while Chef is salting and peppering, when you use induction burner, they require special pans. So that could add to your cost as far as setting your kitchen up. But the pans have an extra layer of metal on the bottom, and when you put the pan on, it forms heat from the magnetism and inducts a tremendous amount of heat. So it's a very good way for cooking. You will see these in buffets where there are restrictions on open flames without venting. And beyond that, you'll see it in some higher-end home cooking equipment. But they're great for our purpose to help produce the show. And we're here at the Loring-Greenough House in Jamaica Plain, and I definitely want to mention this. This, in my opinion, I grew up in the city of Boston, this is a true jewel. Okay, so you did season that with salt and pepper.
Yep, so I let it sit for a little bit just so it kind of accumulates on the meat.
Now, when you're searing, okay, or actually browning this meat, that's going to create caramelization.
Right, for the pan.
For the pan, and that caramelization comes from sugars, but it's going to give you another depth of flavor. So remember, as you're cooking, we're building layers of flavor. So, do you generally use like a canola oil for searing?
Yeah, I use a canola. Sometimes you use an Eva oil, which is an extra virgin olive oil.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that helps kind of keep that browning in control.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. We're going to get that. So we want that pan really good and hot. So when that beef hits it, it's going to retard the meat sticking and tearing when you move it, but it'll really get that caramelization going right from the time you drop that on that pan. Now, braising is a technique where you're actually simmering a stock, okay? And what that does is it tenderizes. Do not let that come to a rolling boil, because if you do, it's the same as making a soup. If you want to make a good chicken soup, you clean that chicken thoroughly, and then you put it into that water. Just have it simmering, because if it goes rolling boil, you're going to get all those particles floating, and you're going to have a cloudy stock. So this is what we want to do. Anytime you're braising, just keep that simmering. Now, there are two techniques. You can either do it on your stove top in a closed saucepan if you have one large enough, or you could do it in the oven in a
browning the meat, just like you do for bones.
In a covered pan, a roasting pan with aluminum foil over it, whichever you prefer. Or if you have, if you have expensive cookware like Le Creuset, those are made for oven roasting as well. So use what you have. Okay, and that's one of the great lessons in cooking. Don't be afraid to start something because you may not have the best equipment. Use what you have, improvise, and that's really how you develop great recipes.
Right.
Okay, chef, so you want your oil.
Yep, so it's kind of crackling.
Right.
So it's definitely getting hot.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with, if you can pass me a pair of tongs.
Sure.
Yeah. And we're just going to put the fat side down onto the oil.
Oh, yeah.
And just push it down just a little bit so that way it gets an even coat on it.
And the even coat is that caramelization, okay? Now, you can hear, I've talked to people that say, oh, I don't cook at too high a temperature. In the kitchen, those pans are smoking because they have to have their service done as quickly as possible so they get waiting too long. But what it does also with all this extra heat, it's forming those really in-depth flavors with the caramelization, and you're going to get the quick browning of the meat, which will help sear it so that you're not losing a lot of the juices, the natural juices in the meat. Right. So that's great.
So we're going to brown in it for maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You can always just kind of just check it from the bottom just to see that it's nice and brown there.
Right.
This obviously needs more time.
Right, right. Right. Now, chef, you just mentioned oil, which just brought something to mind. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are very concerned about cholesterol, fat intake. Once you've seared and rendered, caramelized the fat, it's rendering the fat into a liquid. Do not be afraid to take some of that rendering or the original oil out.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that's what we do. We usually put in, I would say, probably about 1/4 cup of oil to braise. I mean, for something this small, that's what you want to use. But for us industrial sizes, it's usually like 1/2 cup.
Right, but you're doing probably 15, 20 pounds of short ribs using that much oil.
Yeah,
because
like 30.
that fat, as it's rendering, is going to give off an oil.
Yes.
Not a good, healthy oil, but a very flavorful oil.
Yes, it's very true. So we're just going to check it, and this is the color that we're really looking for, that nice caramelized brown look to it, and that's when we can start turning the meat on its side. Now, if the meat doesn't stand on its own, you can kind of make it sit across, or actually you can kind of make it sit against the outside of the pan.
The wall of the pan. Right.
Just so that it has something to hold on to.
Yeah.
You also can see how you can see all the brown inside?
Yeah.
That's what's accumulating. That's what they call the bits.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to be able to extract after we add the jus into it.
Okay.
Which is the stock of the meat.
Right. So Chef's talking about, and I'm sure you've all seen this, you'll see little bits, particularly roasting, like a leg of lamb or roast beef, or if you're searing, you're going to see little brown bits. You want to keep those because when that's going to be part of your flavor profile and really bring that flavor up to a very dynamic eating experience.
It's coming along really well too.
Yeah. Yeah, these induction burners really do a great job.
Again, this side of it as well as the other side is browning nicely. And we're going to do it to all the sides, and then basically after that we're going to flip it on its back side to get that extra juice out there.
Excellent. Yeah, you're not actually trying to cook this meat, you're just browning, which is a very simple way of saying you're searing to get the caramelization.
So what we're going to do now is actually take out the meat because on all sides it's now browning. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna start to add in our mirepoix.
Right.
So this is us taking out the meat here.
You know, Chef and I were talking, we're going to try to come up with smell-o-vision, and because doing these shows, you know, it's one thing to stand here with some of these wonderful chefs, and as they're cooking, the aromas are just really getting the old blood moving. But you obviously can't experience that, so we may be coming up with smell-o-vision. Then Chef and I are going to go retire in his villa. Where was that villa you owned?
It's in Venice.
In Venice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do to start off now is we're going to start adding the mirepoix to caramelize.
Yeah.
Inside here, you can see some of the brown bits on the bottom of the pan where it's already accumulated from the meat. And those brown bits is what Joe's talking about. These is going to help the flavor of the meat to bring back into the plate.
Right. And I prefer Chef Joe.
Okay. All right.
We can. So we want that oil still hot because I'm guessing you want to caramelize these, correct?
Yes.
So you want that same searing on your root vegetables or your mirepoix that you just did on the meat.
Okay.
Now, do you have to, on your onion, I noticed, what do you do, a rough chop on this?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to do that.
So,
Yeah, and you know, I want people to take note of when Chef is cutting this onion. Keep remembering, cutting skills are important, and a sharp knife is a chef's best friend. So why don't you, as you cut this, you can just show us the proper technique.
so what you always want to do, what I always do in the kitchen is you always want to keep your fingers tucked in automatically. So whenever you're cutting anything, you can use your fingers as a guide, but by guiding them, you could pull them in a little bit and use it. So you'll see me do it a little bit
Your
here.
knuckles as the
guide, yeah.
as the guide.
So basically, when you're cutting, you always want to keep your finger here,
Right.
visible.
Right. And it's a slicing motion, not a chopping. It's not a chisel.
And you definitely want the knife to do all the work. So you're just
Right.
guiding the knife and just adding pressure to the back of the knife.
Right.
So again, you can see me here
Right.
where I'm actually putting my finger here to give me that guide.
Right.
It's tucked in,
Yeah.
and we're just going to chop down.
Okay.
So again, the knife
Yeah.
is just doing the work.
Right.
So
Yeah, I want to tell you one other thing. When you're using vegetables that take a little bit of pressure to slice through them, Chef, if you notice, this was a whole onion, okay? And he cut the ends off to get a flat surface. So when that flat surface, you set that down, there's less chance of that ingredient sliding out from under your fingers, slipping and cutting. So carrots, any really hard root vegetables, first thing, cut a flat spot so that you can lay that down on the cutting board without hurting yourself. Sorry, Chef.
no worries.
Okay.
So now that it's cut up, we're going to add the carrots first
Okay.
into it.
And why is that?
I always like to add the carrots to really give that caramelized color of
Okay.
it. And just basically swishing it around,
Right.
trying to get it so it's even, just like the onion.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then we'll add the celery.
Okay.
And when you want to add it against the lip
Yeah.
of it, so that way you're not getting burnt.
So you're not getting that splatter effect.
Right.
Okay.
You don't want to just drop it in and it
Right.
becomes.
Okay.
And then after that, once it's even, you can just kind of pop everything on top.
Right. Now on your onion, okay, you don't want to really get that black because then you lose that sugary caramelize. You don't want it to get black. So as Chef is doing right now, which was a great segue for this comment, don't be afraid to keep that moving in that pan, okay?
So with the garlic, all we do is take the end of the knife
Right.
and just kind of put your fingers to hold it in place.
Right.
And then you just want to make sure it's firm.
Right.
And then when you're adding, pressure, you just want to add pressure so your hands are up in the air.
Right, with your palm.
Yep, and then they're secure on the cutting board. So now you're really just using your palm.
Okay.
And then you want to hold your knife in the back here and just add pressure all together from both hands.
Yeah.
And then you get that, not
Crushed.
fully,
Yeah.
but you don't want fully. You just want enough just so the flavors can come out.
Right. Now, Chef, once you throw your garlic in that pan, do you fish that out once it gets golden brown?
Yes.
Or, okay. Otherwise, you know, burnt garlic just will ruin the whole dish. So keep that in mind. A golden color is fine.
You just want to add flavor.
Right.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see here now that some of the brown bits are actually now uplifted from the vegetables.
Right.
Water
Yeah.
has just pulled it up a little bit there.
Right. You know, this sort of is goes against the idea of caramelization, so just try to stay with me. We're caramelizing these vegetables, but we're also sweating them, okay? And that sweating is taking the moisture out, and you're getting the sugars and those great flavors. And that's part of what we're trying to accomplish here. So we are caramelizing, but we're sweating those vegetables. So once these are caramelized, what's the next step?
Next step is to add the meat back into it.
Okay.
To basically give more flavor.
Right.
And at the same time, we're actually cooking the meat as well.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and put the meat in. Now that it's everything's pretty much even. So we're just going to add the meat now to it.
Oh, boy. And these aromas are just fantastic. Now, you seasoned the meat with the salt and pepper.
Yep.
And you let that salt and pepper rest on the meat.
Yes.
Okay. Then you seared, we added the mirepoix, celery, carrots, onion. At what point would you add more salt and pepper to your dish?
I usually, honestly, I do it towards the end.
Right.
And the reason why is because you don't want to add more salt on top of what you already currently have.
Right.
What's going to happen when you do that is you're going to get a very salty, very not as flavorful because it's going to be over salted.
Right.
So you always want to finish.
I was just going to use that term. It's about finish. And when he's ready to, you know, take everything out of the pan, I'm guessing that's when you will say needs a little more pepper, needs a little bit more salt, that type of a thing.
Yeah. And you can add other things into this, like we were talking to before. Other root vegetables like turnips towards like the fall.
Right.
Other root vegetables. It's much easier. You can do this in the summer. You can do this in the winter.
Yeah.
When you do in the winter, you can add other ingredients into it.
Right.
Like, you know, a garni or bay leaves.
Right.
You know, anything like that to add more flavor to the dish.
You know, Chef just mentioned the garni, which is the bouquet garni. We've talked about that on shows. And that's basically a bay leaf, stems from parsley, a few stems of thyme, peppercorns, and you just put it right in your liquid. So for braising, that's done with liquid. What liquids do you use, Chef?
We actually, for the restaurant, we add a Burgundy wine.
Oh, nice.
And we add beef stock being one of them.
Okay.
And then we add molasses.
Oh.
To kind of caramelize everything together, kind of, you know, make all the sauces even.
Nice.
So this is basically what we have right here is the liquid all in one.
Right.
And we're just gonna basically add that to here. But before we do that, we're gonna take out the garlic.
Okay.
Because we don't want the garlic to
destroy the dish. You know, I'm going to talk about the liquid, and Chef and I did not talk about this. But if I was doing this, it would probably be a ratio of 50% beef stock for me, 25% wine, Burgundy, and molasses, okay? So that, myself, I would use not 25% molasses. Do you use that much, or?
For something this small, we only put in, I believe, a quarter cup.
Quarter cup.
Just
okay.
to add flavor.
Just to add flavor, right. Which goes back to the building of layers again. Okay. So at this point, you took the garlic out, now you put your braising liquid in. Is that correct?
Yep, the garlic's all set there.
Okay.
And again, you didn't see that I put any salt or anything like that because we want to wait to the end for that.
Okay.
So here, you can kind of smell all those ingredients all mixed in one.
Yeah, wonderful.
And what we're going to do is we're going to pour it so it's going over the meat itself to kind of get that salt that was already on the meat over onto everything else.
Now that's a great tip right there. He pours his liquid on, it could be chicken, duck, whatever you want to braise. It's been seasoned with salt and pepper. So he poured his braising liquid right on the protein. That way there, he's sort of doing a wash of salt and getting that into the liquid and distributing it more.
So now we're just going to cap it.
Okay.
And we're going to let it simmer.
Simmer, right.
So at the restaurant, we do it at 400 degrees.
Okay.
And like you said before, you don't want it to have a rolling boil.
Right.
Because you're going to ruin it. So right now, I just turned it up to about 350.
Right.
You know, it's going to come to a simmer.
Right.
Once it starts, you know,
moving,
then you take off the cover.
Right.
You know, you could add aluminum foil, something that you can more control and kind of leave it a little bit open. Right. So the the aromas can kind of go through.
Now again, you can either do this in an oven method or on your stove top, or you can get a crock.
Yeah, save lots of time.
That's how the rookies do it.
Yeah, not us.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's braising. It's coming up to that simmer. Now, Chef, why don't you explain to the viewing audience, you know, that's probably enough there for 2 people, I'm guessing. Enough meat.
Oh, yeah, and then some.
And then some. So, how long are we going to braise this?
So that's one slab of meat.
Yeah.
Probably about, I would say, 4 pounds, give or take.
Yeah.
So 4 pounds at 350, you'd probably want to braise it for about 2 hours.
2 hours.
You know.
Right. Set that timer or check your watch, and then you can come back in a couple of hours because you want that meat, particularly the beef, tender. Okay, that's great, Chef.
So you can just check it here, and you can see, well, it's...
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then we're going to turn it down now, because now we want it just to simmer.
And I don't know if we can actually see, well, I lift it up, it stops, but you just want that little simmer.
Yeah.
Not boiling. And then you take the cover off. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
yep,
and just let it simmer for 2 hours. And what that's going to do is that reduction on your stock, it's going to be fabulous with just a lot of flavor. And when you're doing reductions, that's what it does. It intensifies those flavors.
Plus, when you have the liquid inside, you want to have the liquid about 3/4 above the meat. Okay. So they're just covering just a little bit, and then after an hour, what you want to do is just kind of go in, flip it.
Turn the meat.
Yep, turn the meat so that way now it's coating from the other side.
Excellent.
So it's adding also the salt, the pepper back down to the.
Great. Well, I got to tell you, smell-o-vision, you and I will retire very quickly. Okay, through the magic of television, we've been braising this for 2 hours, and it smells fabulous. So, Chef, what are we going to do next?
So what we're going to do now is, as you can see here, the braising liquid has reduced by half.
Yeah.
So now it's actually, if you can see here, it's 1/4 to where it was before. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of turn it into it just so that way all of it kind of gets coated a little bit. And then after that, we're going to take it out. Okay. And you can see the vegetables here. Yeah. That they're almost, you can see the onion where it's translucent.
Right.
So you know it's been caramelized.
Right. Yeah, and you know, when you finish this dish, it's okay to eat those caramelized vegetables, the carrots, the celery, the onion. and it's almost a great addition to your finished meal. If you don't want to eat it, you don't have to, but it has plenty of flavor, so it's up to you.
I agree. I think you should, you know, when you display it, it's a nice, the root vegetables around it,
Yeah.
kind of make it look a nice presentation to it.
Great.
So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to take the meat out.
Okay. Do you want to plate it, or do you want to?
Yep, we're just going to take it out for like a couple pieces, and then we're going to put all the plate together, and then we can go through all those steps.
Sounds good.
So you can see the meat here, it's been braised quite well. Actually, it's almost fallen off the bone here.
Right.
So you can see all the browning has actually throughout the whole meat.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. You know, when you're planning your meal and you're braising, Chef mentioned that there was probably close to 4 pounds of beef there. But after braising for a couple of hours, you're going to get some shrinkage in weight and size. So keep that in mind for, you know, your guests, your family's appetite. That you are going to get shrinkage, and I'm guessing you probably get 25% shrinkage.
Yeah, that's about right.
There.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. But again, you know, potted beefs, which, you know, like a pot roast or a beef stew, you know, they're very hearty meals. So you can keep that in mind for your portion control as well. Okay, so next, Chef, what would you do?
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move the plate over.
Okay.
And we're just going to, it's a clean white.
Right.
All right.
This is, you notice the chef, that was just an automatic, like a knee-jerk reaction. He took his white towel, made sure that plate was good and clean, and that's what happens in service. You're always making sure, because eye appeal counts for an awful lot. Okay.
Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, we created some black-eyed peed puree, and what we did with this was basically we boiled it till the peas are done, and then we added some herbs and roasted garlic into it, and then when it was hot, we just pureed it while it's hot. So we add the salt, pepper at the end, just like braising.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're just going to just take a dollop.
It's almost like a quenelle.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
So we're going to put it on the center of the plate because that's where we want the presentation to be at most.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do a small little round.
Now, is this a recipe that you created, or is it something that you've seen?
Yeah, I actually just created it just for today.
Oh,
sometimes we actually use this at the restaurant as well as a bean dip for our chips.
Oh, nice.
So we slice chips, and then we give this as a side so you can dip the chips in.
Oh,
so it tastes really good.
Yeah, I can't wait to taste it.
All right, so now we're just going to grab the meat and just
stack it on the puree.
So we can probably put nice two ends together and kind of give that presentation to it.
Okay.
All right, so that's how it looks now. You can kind of see there's a nice area in the middle.
Right.
A little tilted.
Right. Do you want to put some of those root vegetables on there?
Yeah, so we're going to put them right around.
Okay.
Just so we can give some
color to the plate.
Yep. So what we want to do here is just grab, and we're just going to put it right around it.
Oh, this smells wonderful coming out of this saucepan. So you have your protein, you have your vegetables, you have a little wine built in. The alcohol's been cooked off if you have an allergy.
There we go.
Oh, that looks fabulous, Chef.
So what we do at the restaurant always to have a nice plate presentation, we always want to clean the edges, you know, for fingerprints or whatnot.
Right.
All right, so we have that now. So what we do here is, this is a dark cherry glaze that goes for the topping of this. And basically what we do is we create balsamic, reduce it down, just like as we did for...
Like a syrup?
Yep, to a syrup consistency.
Yeah.
And then we add a little red wine vinegar to also get a syrupy consistency.
Yeah.
We add roasted garlic puree.
Nice.
And then we add dark cherry preserves. And then we let that boil down to reduce, I would say, about a third.
Wow.
And then after that, we puree it. And then we ingest all the flavors into one.
Wow.
So this is the finished product. It's, you can see it, the consistency is a little syrupy. So what we're going to do, we're just going to drizzle that right over the product just to give some nice flavor.
Right. Now the dark cherry preserves, that you can get in the supermarket?
Yes. Just take it out of the bottle, put it into the pot, let it bring to a boil, and then reduce it down. And then just, at the end, just puree it.
Right. Oh, God. This absolutely smells wonderful. It looks fantastic and very filling. That's quite a portion.
It is.
So your guests or your family will just love you to death. Well, Chef, I want to thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
This has been a wonderful cooking experience, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I just want to say, remember the Chef's Table Foundation. If you want to watch the show, you can go to the Chef's Table series.tv, and the show will be posted on the website. Thanks again, and happy eating.
Hi everyone, I'm Rob Costa with Massachusetts Beverage Alliance. This is your beer pairing for the week. This week we're going to be pairing Porter Square Porter from Slumbrew Brewing Company, right out of Somerville, Massachusetts, with the braised short rib. So I decided to use this particular beer because typically with something like a short rib or really any beef dishes, I like to go with either an American brown or a porter. This particular porter has the benefit of being brewed with not only cocoa powder, but cocoa nibs from Tazo Chocolate. The chocolate actually shines through, it's not intense, but it is an element in the beer, which goes great with anything like a braised short rib, those nice, caramelized notes that you find in a short rib after braising, you find actually in this beer just due to the malts. That's really where you find all this flavor profile is for porters, specifically this one, right in the malts. You're getting a lot of caramel from the chocolate, definitely some little roasted coffee flavors in there. Does very, very well with red meat. A little bit of that sweetness from the braising actually goes very well with the caramely notes from the biscuity notes in this beer. What you do find as well is it's using typically very low alpha acid hops. That means it's not going to be overly bitter. So you're going to have something that more complements something as delicate as a beef flavor, so you can actually get the flavor of the meat without worrying about hops just overpowering it. I wouldn't choose, say, a very hoppy IPA or maybe even something too intense like a Belgian triple. This beer I think goes perfectly because it does have those little notes from the food that complement rather it being sort of a complement by contrast. I think that especially this particular porter, it being very fresh, obviously, because it is Massachusetts, it's made in Massachusetts, and using a generous amount of Mexican coffee, it's going to have a little bit of that coffee bitter note that I think just pairs well with any meat dish. No matter what you pair with it, I mean, if you're going to do it with the salad, if you're going to have something with rice or something like that, a porter or an American brown do very, very well. Again, this is my particular favorite of the style, so that's what I would go with. My name's Rob Costa, Massachusetts Beverage Alliance. This is Slumbrew Brewing Company's Porter Squared Porter, and this has been your craft beer pairing for the week. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Gann, and I work at Ethos in Jamaica Plain. We work with elders and people of all ages with disabilities, and we provide, among other services, home-delivered meals, community cafes, and in-home nutrition consultation services. I'm a registered dietitian, wife and mom for over 30 years, and in that time I've learned some pretty good ways of getting my family to eat well, and I hope I can relay those to you as well. And today I want to talk about greens, particularly dark green leafy vegetables, because dark green leafy vegetables are full of something called phytonutrients or phytochemicals. And what those are active compounds in the vegetables that benefit human health. They're not vitamins themselves, but they do help with your continued well-being. One of the nicest things about this kind of a vegetable is that it's very low calorie. So a cup of chopped kale is a mere 33 calories. It's also loaded with nutrients. Something like 600% of your vitamin K for the day, 200% of the vitamin A you need, and in the case of kale, over 100% of your daily need for vitamin C. So it's also a good source of minerals, copper, manganese, and phosphorus. And on top of it all, most of these even taste good. So what else could you ask for? So, and when we look at these, one of the reasons people tend to shy away from some of these is because they're in the cabbage family, the so-called cruciferous vegetables. And that means if you've ever cooked cabbage, you cook it too long and your house is full of that horrible sulfur smell. Well, you don't need to do that because cooking these does not require a long cooking time as long as you do some of the work before you ever cook them. What you're going to do is you're going to cut away some of the stem. Then you're going to roll it just like this. Sometimes you can roll two at once. And you're going to chiffonade, as the chefs would say. I would say cut very, very thinly. And if you're really going to be sensible about it, instead of doing it the way I'm doing it, you're going to roll up a couple of them, get out your food processor, put it in the chute just like this, and you'll have mountains of perfectly shredded collards in an instant. Then steam it lightly, and because you've cut it into such nice thin little strips, it really tenderizes very, very quickly and keeps its beautiful dark green color. Dress it with a little olive oil, garlic, salt, and pepper, and you've got yourself an absolutely fabulous main part of the plate vegetable. If you want even a prettier vegetable, how about Swiss chard? Chard has these beautiful ribs, and they'll stay nice and red, look really pretty on the plate. Sometimes you can get chard with yellow and white and red, even better looking. And here we have curly kale, another powerhouse. Now, spinach, and we have some fresh spinach here. Spinach is an interesting one because spinach on its own is pretty fluffy. And people say, oh, I'm going to eat a spinach salad, I'm going to get all my nutrients. One of the problems is, face it, how many leaves of fresh spinach are you going to eat at a time? This whole pile of fresh spinach is actually the same amount as in this one little frozen package, both about 10 ounces. So you can see spinach shrinks incredibly when you cook it. So you have to think about that in terms of portions and the amount of nutrients you're getting. One of the nutrients that's also in all of these is calcium. But you do have to be careful because the calcium in these particular vegetables are also found with oxalates. And oxalates are naturally occurring compounds, and those oxalates will bind the calcium. So you're not going to get the full benefit of the calcium. So for a good dose of phytonutrients, vitamin K, vitamin A, vitamin C, stick with those nice, healthy, dark green leafy vegetables. I'm Marjorie Gann, and I'm here for Chef's Table, and thank you for joining me.
Hi folks, Steve Adan, chef owner of Kiara Bistro in Westwood, coming at you this week with this week's Chef's Tip of the Week. I want to talk this week a little bit about avocados. There are a couple of different types of avocados you can buy. One has a bumpier skin, and then there's one with a smooth skin like this. Depending on the application, I might prefer one over the other. For just slicing them and putting on top of a salad, I might buy the one with the bumpier skin. It tends to be a little bit firmer. But if you're going to make guacamole for some salsa and chips and things like that, you might want to prefer this one. And it's important to buy them and just kind of pinch it with your thumb. And when you see that little indentation, you don't want it too mushy, but you don't want it firm at all. But I see people, what I really want to show you is how quickly you can peel one of these. They are very slippery, and I see people doing this and taking the skin off, and then when they get around here, it's sliding in their hands and stuff, things like that. So the easiest way is, first of all, have a very sharp knife and just start at the top, and you'll feel the pit when you get to the middle, and just make a circle circular cut all the way around the perimeter, and then just twist the avocado. Okay, and to get that pit out, I'll use a little bit larger knife, but be careful when you do this, but take good aim and just go into the pit and twist the knife quickly, and that comes right out. And so, side note, this side of the avocado, if you want to put 3 toothpicks in there and put it in a glass of water, it might sprout roots, and you may be able to grow yourself a little nice looking avocado plant as well. So once you get to this stage, just take a spoon, and again, the avocado has to be ripe to do this, and then you just scoop it out. And there's no muss, no fuss with this avocado sliding all over your hands and all over the cutting board. And then from there, you can just do whatever you prefer with it. You know, if you're making guacamole, you can just kind of press it down and chop it up, turn it that way, and keep chopping. If you like it mushy, you can puree it, make an avocado puree in your food processor. But it's by far the easiest way to get an avocado out of its skin without dealing with it sliding around in your hands. Add a little bit of light cream and lime juice and make a nice silky, smooth avocado puree. And this is Steve Adan with this week's Chef's Tip of the Week.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the restaurant interview segment of the Chef's Table series. I am sitting with Adam Rutstein. He is the owner of Center Street Sanctuary, located at 365 Center Street in Jamaica Plain, specifically in Hyde Square. So Adam, thanks for being on the segment with me today. Adam, where did you come up with the concept of sanctuary? It's a very unique name for a restaurant.
My wife actually came up with the name.
She did?
Well, we built this restaurant on the campus of the Blessed Sacrament Church.
Mm-hmm.
So this used to be the site of the rectory.
Oh.
So we wanted to come up with something that identified with the neighborhood. So we thought that
That's a good idea.
we thought that people would kind of gravitate towards something that kind of fit in with what used to be here. So I went through names like the church, which was already taken, and mission, which is already taken.
That's right.
And the chapel, which is already taken, and my wife said Sanctuary, and there was a nightclub that used to be downtown called Sanctuary, but the owners, for whatever reason, closed it, and we thought that this was more of a sanctuary for this neighborhood than what the nightclub was. So that's why we also called it Center Street Sanctuary, because we wanted to make sure that it was specific to the area. So.
Now tell me about the design and build-out of this place. I mean, you have a lot of history with the stained glass and the wood.
Well, what we wanted to do is we wanted to come up with things that would fit with the theme. So I knew that I wanted to put church pew seating for the seating in our dining room. And if you've seen that, you actually sat in church pew before here. And I knew I wanted to put stained glass in the bar. So we wound up building things around that. So when I was looking at these stained glass windows, I asked the owner of the salvage yard if he minded if I looked around. He said, sure. So I wound up walking only 100 yards from where I was, and I found these huge oak doors sitting there that used to be from a church in Watertown. And I took those and we built the bar out of it. So that was wonderful. The bar itself used to be a choir box.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I can see that.
And we found that while we were looking for the church pews. And the host stand used to be a lectern where priests used to speak from. So we found that also when we were looking for the banquette seating. And it seemed like everything that we found was something that just seemed to fit with the theme. So
Definitely.
We found one thing, we found 4 other things.
Yeah, and the lighting, too. It's very unique and small.
Good. I'm glad you like it. I was a little panicked about the lighting because the light fixtures were the only thing I picked out of a catalog.
Oh, no, I think they work well.
Yeah, they did work well. So I was really nervous when we got them in, but they seem to look okay.
Yeah, they work. Now, how many seats do you have inside here?
We had 85.
Wow.
Yes.
You have high tops, and then you have the low tables where the pews are.
We have it split. So where the pews are, that's the dining room side.
Oh,
and then we're sitting right now in the bar and lounge. And there's roughly about a little over 40 seats in here. And there's roughly about 40 seats in the other side. So.
That's a good size for a restaurant.
Yeah.
So we had your executive chef on the show, Steve Adan, cooking along with Joe Murphy, the braised short ribs. What other dishes does Steve have here? Well,
I try to make sure that the chef can identify with the menu, so he has quite a few. There have been some things that have just become identifiable viable to Center Street Sanctuary, like
okay.
our poutine,
Yeah.
our Greek salad, and the wings, and some other items. So those weren't traditionally his. But I like to give the chef a lot of freedom so that way they can feel comfortable with the menu.
Oh, that's good. What's poutine for our viewers?
Poutine is a Canadian dish
Mm-hmm.
that it's essentially fries and gravy. And we do, it's fries, gravy, cheese curds, and hand-cut bacon.
Oh,
And it's delicious.
sounds delicious.
Right. So I would say it's a post-workout meal,
Yep.
not a pre-workout meal.
Tell me, now, the outdoor dining, that's new. Is
Yes.
that new?
That opened in May.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going very well. We have an herb garden out there which has oregano, 2 types of parsley, 3 types of mint, some dill, and it's now growing well enough that we can use it into our menu.
Oh, your chefs must love that.
Well, I would hope so. We're
Yeah.
going to incorporate a lot of that with the garnishing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when you sit down at the table, we give fresh potato chips with the bean dip, and we're going to be using the herb in the bean dip.
That's clever. That's
Yeah.
good. Now, you offer brunch, but
Yes.
you do it Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
What are the times for those?
Brunch opens at 10.
Oh,
And we're open all day on Saturday and all day on Sunday.
And just continue through into dinner.
Correct.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Now, what other items are on your menu? Rachel came in here, the reviewer for Table
Sure.
Critic, and she was talking about those chicken wings.
Yes.
Tell me about them.
We have a couple of different varieties. We have a honey chipotle, which are a little zesty.
Yeah,
We have a soy molasses. Those are sweet.
yeah.
The Damnation Habanero wings.
Damnation.
Well,
That's
we
a good
call them
name.
all after
The sanctuary.
thematic
Yeah.
things. The Damnation Habanero wings, those are supposed to be really spicy.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to have a tough time finishing those. So she seemed to enjoy them.
Yeah.
And anyone who can finish those wings, that's a pretty tough accomplishment.
Yeah, and like I was saying, she loves spice. Rachel just loves
Good.
spice. Yeah, but Adam, thanks for being on the segment with me
Pleasure.
today. Thank you so much. And everyone, Center Street Sanctuary is located at 365 Center Street in Hyde Square, Jamaica Plain. And this has been the restaurant interview segment, and we'll see you next week.
Sometimes we actually use this at the restaurant as well as a bean dip for our chips. So we slice chips and then we give this as a side so you can dip the chips in. So it tastes really good.
Yeah, I can't wait to taste it. Very
Right, so
good
now-
herbs that you can get in the supermarket.
Yes, just take it out of the bottle, put it into the pot, let it bring to a boil,
Yeah.
and then reduce it down. And just at the end, just puree it.
Right? Oh God, this absolutely smells wonderful. It looks fantastic and very filling. That's quite a portion.
It is.